Okay, guys, I got another Zoom today with a motley group of audiophiles. You may recognize some of them. And besides the fun we have and some of the joking around that some of you may enjoy or just making fun of us, we talk about a couple of topics that may be of interest to you. Number one being McIntosh and Bose merger. It's been a hot topic. I have one of the most hardcore McIntosh fanboys I've ever met. You're even going to see his car system. That is amazing, McIntosh. But you're going to hear from him and his opinion, as well as two guys from Capital Audio Fest that heard the Poporis in Mike Sweck's room. One of them is buying the pair, and another one has had speakers of that ilk and give his impressions. So those are two hot topics in the industry right now, at least in my center of the world. So enjoy this conversation and chime in with your thoughts. Okay, guys, welcome back to the channel. Got another Zoom for you today, and I know that's not the most popular content for the masses, but for my niche in the world, I think that, and for what I like to do, which is whatever I like to do, I do a video on, is talk to other audiophiles, feature other audiophiles' opinion, not make this all about me, and getting other people's impressions that help you, because in a lot of cases, when all my friends hear the same things I hear, we tend to agree, and we tend to find the value equation and the performance equation that saves you guys a lot of that learning curve that we already went through. And all of our experiences combined can get you to the right answer. So on a couple of topics we wanted to focus on here was number one, Bose and McIntosh. I have the most hardcore fan of McIntosh. He owned everything McIntosh at one time, knows all the model numbers, had multiple pieces of McIntosh, even has a McIntosh car audio system that he just put in his new Porsche, $200,000 Porsche. And I haven't heard it yet, but Doug says it's amazing. I'll pop up pictures so you can see that. Peppy, he's actually been featured on my channel in the past and had a really cool room that got destroyed by the hurricane that hit New Orleans several years ago. So check out that video as well. That was an eye-opening video, what happened to his unfortunate system because of a hurricane. And still to this day, he's just now getting paid by insurance companies. Crazy story. But other than that, also wanted to feature Tom and Doug, who were at Capital Audio Fest. They were at the actual setup session I did with Mike Sweck and the Poporis and the Bach in that room the day before the show. They're going to relay their impressions of what they saw, heard, and their experiences. In case of Doug, he's interested in buying that demo model for his condo. And then Tom has owned other panel type speakers that didn't pass the test on certain materials, certain volume levels. And you're going to hear straight from him what his impressions were compared to another speaker he had in that exact same price point. So I think this is a valuable discussion, even though Zooms aren't the most popular. At the end of the day, these are organic conversations. We don't pre-produce anything. We just go in with the general topic and it flows the way it goes. And by the end, we have still people calling in on the Zoom, part of my membership group, which if you do want to join the membership group, you can do it through the YouTube channel. Or if you buy a Bach from me, then you also get automatic entry into my WhatsApp group and you can join the fun with us. So enjoy this Zoom and let me know your thoughts as well on the McIntosh Bose, because I share my own thoughts and some behind the scenes stuff I know as well. Enjoy, guys.
Okay. So anybody can join. I wanted to just focus number one on the Popori room at CAF because it's such a brand that so few people know about. You know, Mike, as the first time being a distributor and at the show, it has been in the US partially in the past, but there really isn't a whole lot of information out there. So for people that are interested, and because it's one that's captured my attention, it's good for not only people hear from me, but from other people's perspective about what was at the room, what their first exposure was to it. And I've already had Van in my prior videos in a Zoom who's bought the WR1s based on the demo there. But I know, Doug, you were strongly considering the demo model for your Destin condo. And then Tom, you actually had a competing, not an electrostatic, but a planar line source the diptyque, and it didn't work out to your satisfaction, and you had that comparison real
Right.
time, very close in time to hearing the potpourri, because you were at Capital Audio Fest too. So I wanted to cover that topic first, and then we have Mike Sweck here who can talk about anything question-wise. We just had a Zoom with Potpourri today, talking about that sale model, and that's the one that hopefully will become mine soon. But then also we have Pepe on, and then you guys in general wanted to talk about McIntosh and the deal with Bose. And really, I thought it was best to get not only our general perspective, but a hardcore McIntosh owner for many years, one of the biggest fans, actually just put a big Macintosh system in his car. And I'm gonna have pictures of that to overlay in this video. Really cool. So if there's anybody that knows, there's probably very few people that know more about Macintosh than Pepe in terms of having experience with it and the different model numbers. So getting his perspective, which we really haven't even talked about. So I'm just going to be hearing it first myself. And this is the kind of content I like to do, even though people don't like it, they don't like it. I like doing this. I like to hear from you guys, share your opinions. So I wanted to start off first with you, Tom, because, and I'm going to mute myself because my dogs are going crazy in the background, but wanted to hear your perspective on the Capital Audio Fest and the potpourri and your experience with the diptyques and stuff.
Sure. Tell me if it's too much. It was quite an experience. I had never been to Capital Audio Fest. It was a great show, a little more variety, etc. But the experience, I think I was able to experience the setup in the room, and because I'm good friends with Michael, and I was trying to help out. I just kept my mouth shut mostly, but the combination of things was pretty extraordinary, and it just worked. But as you know, that there are things that you have to do, and this is true of any speaker. And the things you learn, and the things that, say, the Bach allows you to learn on the fly, are just shocking. And so Michael had a combination in there that was ideally suited. There were some ASC tube traps, and also, of course, the VAC amplifiers, which were very nice in the box. So that whole setup was really well curated to begin with, but it sounded great right out of the box. I mean, without doing anything at all, which for a planar speaker in a small room was kind of shocking to me. And as you mentioned, I owned for a little very short period of time, I owned a pair of Diptyque 160s, and I was very excited about them and all that. And it just didn't work out. The bass range had some resonances in it that I didn't think were acceptable in a speaker that cost that much money, especially. And they also weren't very friendly to ORC. ORC tried to make them work even harder, and they just couldn't do it. So they went back. I've owned, gosh, I had original Martin Logan CLSs. So I go back to the old school, and I've had just a variety of Martin Logans, and I had Magnepans for 3.6s for 5 years or so. So I've had a lot of planers. And again, the reaction was right out of the box. Those things kicked butt. They had great bass. They weren't afraid of any of it. What you threw at it, that sort of thing. They were very responsive to tuning with ORC and the Bach. Didn't take a lot, but it needed it. I mean, you needed to use it just to get the best out of it, I thought. But standing by themselves, they would hold their own with anything. So the one thing I mentioned to Michael earlier, I was chatting with him, is that they get really right, that some of the planers, and especially electrostatics, at least maybe it's a mental thing, but they sound kind of plasticky, if you will, at times, or it's just a weird feeling. And you think you're not going to get that rich tone sound. And these did that in spades. I mean, they had just a wonderful, full, great sound to them. I think some of that certainly is exposing they're able to expose what the VAC amps are doing. So it was a really good combination. So anyway, overall, I was quite floored by them. I think in the price range, that's tough. to even get close to at 34 and change. I forget the exact amount, 35K, give it. And I actually, I took a different approach to the show even. I went around and I kind of skipped all the stuff I'd heard before. And I looked in the 30 to 60,000 price range for something that would be comparable, and so I hit quite a few rooms kind of thinking about that. And I found four that were really good. I liked, and that I went back to more than once, a couple of them. And it was the Rosso Fiorentino Siena. They're about 40K. It's a pyramid sort of looking thing. Beautiful setup, nice sound, but they're 40K. They're more money. And the equipment with them was quite a bit more money. And then the next one that was really good was that I'd never paid attention to before was the Gaia G3 S2 was terrific, but it was 50K. And, I felt like the Popori would do everything those would, and then some, in terms of the image and what they portrayed, that sort of thing. The YG Haleys were great with the Vinnie Rossi Brahma setup. That was just a nice, clean setup. But again, the Brahmas by itself is, I don't know, 40, 50K, and the Haleys are 63. And the last one was the new VSA VR30s. Those are 49K, and I don't think they were even close. They weren't set up that great in my view. But so anyway, so I did a lot of comparison while I was there, just trying to even think if I was in the market, would this be one that I'd put on my short list? And would I put it at the top? I would, absolutely. So anyway, great job by both you and Michael to get everything there and get it all set up and working really well. And then the midnight tuning session was great. We all learned a lot. The special lesson for me was how much difference a tiny change in a tube trap could make. I mean, less than a foot.
1 foot made a big difference. Yeah.
Yeah, and you could see it. You could measure it. That most times you can't do that. So most people throw room treatments in a room and call it good.
They don't know.
Say, yeah, I'm treated.
Yeah. They have no idea that it's doing nothing, relatively speaking. If you just move it 1 foot, then all of a sudden, measurable difference.
Right.
Yeah, that was very interesting. And props to Doug for helping out, because we had to isolate another reflection that we couldn't treat that was coming from the ceiling. But the Bach allowed us to identify where it was coming from, because he held styrofoam over my head and it went away. So we knew exactly where it was coming from. We just couldn't treat that with any, for the weekend purposes, you can't treat the ceilings. But that was a big takeaway that I wish we would have filmed, because
Yeah.
although we got shut down at midnight because we were bothering the neighbors with frequency sweeps late at night. It's not the most exciting thing to run a bunch of frequency sweeps, but relatively speaking, did we get it dialed in pretty quickly compared to if we had to do it on our own hearing? There were other rooms that were still moving their room treatments around even Sunday. We were able to do it within an hour using the Bach tools. So I'm glad you got to witness that and enjoyed that part of it. And again, props to Doug for helping me out there. He's had that same thing we did in his, we did the same thing in his room to find reflections, because he has an omnidirectional speaker. So he has much more reflections, but it's more important to treat certain ones that are getting to his ear. And so I guess it's a good transition to Doug, because Doug not only went into the room, was in the same time when we were setting it up, but I think he had a similar impression of the Popori. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but the pair that's coming to me is likely going to be purchased by him for his condo. At least that's the thought process. So turn it over to Doug, maybe get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think for me, from what I've heard, it's not a question of if, it's when. It's just more of a timing issue for me, but I was very impressed with it. I've always liked electrostat speakers, even ribbon speakers, those types of speakers with our articulation, especially in the mid-range. But it's always been lacking. Every one of them I've ever heard has always been lacking in that lower end. And this was really a different level than any of that stuff. So I was very, very happy with the full package. it doesn't take up a lot of visual space with it. It's almost a little bit transparent speaker, which for me works better. If you're going to put this in the living room, you're going to put it in a common area, then that it works. It's not this big wooden speaker. But it's a beautiful speaker, and you can choose different color palettes. So it's very customizable, which I really like. And I didn't really find any significant weaknesses of it at all. And I kept going back to the room, and I wasn't even had it dialed into me specifically, just standing behind, other people that had it dialed in with the Bach. I think it was a great match with the Bach. It outperformed, to Tom's point, speakers that are double the price and then up from there. And so, I think from a cost value of what you get from audio performance, it was one of the best in the entire show, in my opinion, for it. I also learned a great respect from all of Mike's work behind the scenes of what it takes to pull this off. I know you did a video on that before, and as just a consumer, I'm not, really in the business. It's something to see. There's a lot of work if you're going to do it right, which Mike does. The customer service side of it, and just, set up and taking pride into your product. These things are not just set it up, plug it in, and you go get coffee, and then you're ready to show the speaker. It doesn't work like that. And so you really start to separate yourself from speakers that, cost, much more than that sound terrible. And you walk out of this room scratching your head, like wondering what happened. And probably a lot of it is just the person that's setting up the room and taking the time and effort to it. So I love the speaker. I think it's fantastic. I'm excited that is something kind of new to see at the show, and anyone that hasn't seen it or experienced it, I would highly, highly recommend it. If you're at all a fan of those types of speakers, I think you will not be disappointed. And it's really one of the best that I've heard in that class. And just I'm a big fan of the speaker in general. So I was very, very happy with it.
Yeah, that's great feedback. Obviously, I had a brief exposure to it 2 years ago at Seattle, and then I had some exposure to it in Munich, and it just kind of escaped my purview of all the electrostatics I've been testing this year. But then when Michael Sweck brought it to my attention, he was looking to be the distributor, and I started rethinking, oh yeah, that's the one that blew me away in Seattle and then at Munich. And I was like, it just escaped my memory for whatever reason. And then I realized it was the one that I had gotten a card from the guy with that sail shape. And the sail shape, to my taste, is about the best looking speaker I've ever seen, especially because it's a line source, my type of speaker.
Especially if you get 4 of them, 2 on each side. It's nice and balanced that way.
Yes. So my surround sound for everything, for all my 5 channels. But yeah, I love the look of it. And then I realized it was a prototype. So we just had a Zoom today with the Popori guys, and they are actually working on that for the Tampa show. So hopefully Michael will have that by then. It'll go to the Tampa show, at least be on static display if we can't get a big enough room to put them in. And then hopefully it comes to my house after that. And then also Dallas show. So I know you're coming to that, Doug, and Michael, you're going to have a room at both of those shows. Hopefully you can make it, Tom.
I'll be there. I have my new knee, so I'm going to be ready for Tampa.
And Pepe has a new Porsche, so he can get there in a few hours from anywhere from New Orleans. The way he drives.
To his McIntosh rig.
Yeah, in fact, more people will probably go out in the parking lot to hear his McIntosh and see his Porsche. And it might be a good transition now to talk about the other hot topic has been the McIntosh Bose merger. And so I'll be happy to give my 2 cents on that. But in terms of Pepe, maybe best to hear from an actual hardcore guy. What are your thoughts on it overall?
Well, I'm not I guess a Mac only person. Over the years, I've had everything from a 2-watt amplifier. I've had every kind of Class A, Class D amps. I've had everything under the sun, from speakers to electrostats to planers to horns to you name it. I've had them over 40 years. I still have it. Jason, I sent you some pics, a bunch of pics, and you can see some of the different gears, some of the over the years and whatnot. I tend to listen, I don't know, what do you think, Jason, at a little bit of a higher decibel level?
It's called
Kind
ear
of what
bleeding.
people in the
It's
audio
called
have
hearing
been ragging
damage.
about me for
It's
20 years.
called Are You Deaf, Peppy? He listens. I
What?
literally, last time I went to Peppy's house before he had the hurricane to destroy it, maybe the hurricane you didn't even like your system. It had to tear it down because it was so loud. No, you listen
know.
loud. You can punish any system to its max. And that's something that a lot of people enjoy. I mean, certainly not just audiophiles, but people in general. When you hear a song you like, you're going to crank it up. Now, you listen to some peculiar music like Fish and Grateful Dead.
Yes,
But,
greatest band
Do
ever.
that- do that.
we're not going to
That's
go
just
off.
for you,
and-
baby, right there, right there.
Yeah, exactly. We're not going to.
We're ready to go on tour, man.
That's why I mistaken him for someone homeless. I'm like, oh wait, he's
Yeah,
a fish.
exactly. I can
Yeah.
smell the weed from here and the body odor.
Just for you, man.
Like every one of those concerts. But in any case, yeah,
200 and count 200 and going. So
yeah. So
But anyway,
you're synonymous
Baldwin
with
put
loud
himself.
music, Fish, and McIntosh.
I like the jam thing, but honestly, I tell people I listen to everything from classical to gangster rap minus modern day country, which is a travesty, or bro country as they call it. But other than that, everything under the sun. I grew up in a household where Dad always had just something on, and he had a huge collection of music too. So you tend to broaden out, get tired of the same things, and you broaden out a little bit more and start to listen to all kinds of different things. And I'll tell you, the neat thing is that recordings of all of these shows now, they've got it down to a science. And so every time these guys, whether it's just about any jam band or it takes like a Billy Strings or something like that, that the captures of those shows are fantastic. Even like now a Fish show, what was really nice about the system I had is you could actually stream a live Fish show in at 4K, and I think they were using 8 cameras on that, and then it's you get 2496 coming down the pipe too, and running it through a 4K projector and a large screen in that room that I had was it worked. It was nice.
It's a far cry from the old Grateful Dead tapes where people are passing around in college. It's like you got to get past the hissing, and then you can hear people like coughing from the weed they're smoking in the back.
Exactly, you could hear all that stuff in those tapes, those bootlegs.
Kids nowadays don't know how they have it, how good they've got it now.
Crazy
they wake up the next morning and the show's right there for download in high res.
Screaming, yeah, exactly.
And so it's. But access to music is is just huge. I mean, any show, it's just out there and it's done at really, high quality, many of them. So the issue that I've had over the years is trying to get, I guess my biggest fight with any system is a low end. And once I got larger loudspeakers, it kind of helped throw out the amount of decibels I was needing to push out. Now, first, I guess, larger one, if you will, was it the Utopias? I think I had a pair of Alto, still have Alto Utopias, and that's when I kind of, the Focal that I fell in love with beryllium, and I used that for a long time. And then, as you know, over the years, I had other things too, from loudspeakers that are, single drive, the Zoo Audios and stuff like that as well, along the way in different parts of the house.
One of them was even an open baffle that looked like a door on a cabinet in your kitchen. It just was, the baffle was like a door hinge.
What is that? The Kentuck Audio.
Yeah, whatever that was. That was hilarious.
Yeah, those little things. I had a little pair of those, a little small tube amp driving it. And but the thing is that I do listen to music at a higher level, mainly because it's like I like to feel it as well. Not heavy. I keep the bass actually pretty low. I mean, everything's even, but with subs, they're barely on.
I don't know about that.
No, come on. They really are. My subs really are, and it's just. But then again, every speaker, Jason, I've had, you saw the last ones I bought, Jason, were large speakers.
Right. Yeah. Traditional coffin size, huge, but in a modern chassis, almost Dunleavy, Audio Solutions back, and but getting to the point that we were talking about,
right? All of that to get to that, but driving all of that over the years for power,
McIntosh is what you found.
I've used all kinds of other things too, but
you've even had the McIntosh turntable, power conditioner.
Well, no, I have the power conditioners. I've got, I've learned over the years, everything not digital.
No, not digital.
Which is
Yeah.
the old Mac thing, you know, for preamps, I had the C500, which is here, and then I've got the C1100, the 501s, 601s, the transport. What else? DAC, the D1100 DAC.
And they all had their proprietary cable that you had to use to connect one.
Yeah, that's a racket that is, right? You know, the proprietary 6-pin cable, that's $800 when you.
But you've also heard their speakers. You know, you
I have, and I'll tell you,
a true
I really did like
McIntosh
them.
fanboy.
I'm not going to lie, I really did. And this was back in, that was I think it was a long time ago. The first time I went to the Boulder and Denver and a while back. And Mac had a loudspeaker, and I think that's where they're hurting right now, is that middle line, because you've got the reference, what is it, 2.1s or the 1.2s, I think 1.1s went to 1.2s, and you're talking about, you know, $170, $180 or something for that system. And then you drop down and have a lot of smaller ones as well, but you know, under 15 or 20,000. But that whole, I think the whole middle range, there's a lot missing, you know, on the Mac line. But when I listened to them, they were fantastic. I liked them. And again, sometimes it's, you know, different per people's flavor, but I thought it was a really good sounding loudspeaker. The other thing about Mac over the years is that, again, I've got 2105s, C32s. You know, I can get parts for them, which is still kind of neat. I could still get a new glass faceplate for a 1968, you know, 2105. So it's that's kind of a neat thing about it, parts and whatnot. And then right up the road, you know, 2 miles up in Vestal, New York, you've got the folks at Audiophile, so things that is beyond me, they can you know, handle as well. So I think the thing originally too is, Doug, remember I used to leave my system on 24/7, 365, and you know, for 2 years, and they're bulletproof, really, and even that
hurricane proof.
Hurricane proof.
That's the only thing that didn't break was your Macintosh.
You can rain on it for 3 weeks and it still works. I used his 501s to drive my MBLs and he sounded fantastic. I mean, he was kind and gracious enough to lend me his extra, you know, monoblock.
Good thing, because when the hurricane,
how many people have those laying around?
The hurricane hit,
I used it for my MBLs while Steve McCormick,
I remember that.
My amplifiers.
They were in the video that I featured at your house.
Yeah, I have to tell you, I mean, you know, the performance was great. I mean, I was like, had plenty of power, and you know, there was really no weakness to that, even driving the MBL. So, you know, I'm a fan of McIntosh just from what I've seen from the performance from his system and mine. I mean, I've gone a different direction, but I do respect the power that it delivers and the performance that it delivered, and the preamplifier matched with that, you know, really sounded fantastic. So
what's the general impression though?
Go ahead.
You know, I just don't know how the Bose.
What is your thoughts then as a fanboy?
Have y'all noticed their gear changed, kind of the look of it over the last probably 6-7 years or so? And I think that I don't know what they're targeting, a younger kind of but I'm 52, so a younger, hipper crowd or whatnot.
Non-homeless.
Non-homeless guy that's not at fish shows, man, out in the parking lot.
But that is part of the. What are they targeting though? Because the prices went up.
That's
kind of, the styling was not to the older.
No, and that's what I think. Are they targeting folks in their 30s, and that's great. But that's a chunk of change, and they went up. And so who's actually, because it doesn't. What was that? Somebody joined?
Oh,
okay.
So I'm going to mute some people so that.
Okay. So my belief, I just think that it's who's buying those things? I don't know. Especially guys that have the traditional look for everything, and then throwing something in or changing out something else, it kind of, I think, throws off the.
Well, they also have different lanes.
Generally, very purist. I mean, they love it. You know, they love the blue lights. I mean, he loved it so much, put a whole system in his car. You know, I mean, people love that, and I think you start messing with something that works, especially with a traditional brand like McIntosh. It's a little bit risky. Maybe they know what they're doing, but I would be a little bit.
Well, they started going to hybrids. I mean, they always had their solid state and tube, and that was risky as it is but it was good enough that it was popular but then they started making these hybrids, and then all in one integrated, and so becoming you know, the whole thing, jack of all trades, master of none, kind of maybe, did you see a decline in anything from customer service to stuff over the years?
I think their topologies work. Their amplifier, you know, take away the shell and the box. They're the larger amps, at least the 601s and the 1201s and whatnot. I can drive anything with them, and not even break a sweat. But again, the packaging of some of those, I hopefully we see a change in that, but or a different direction. But as far as the what you're ultimately getting
Nuts and
to
bolts
is
of
that,
it's okay.
it's maybe I'm off. I don't know, but again, if it's being right now, you have the ownership you're talking about, from private equity to a company. I think people that think, oh my God, what's going to happen? The Bose, who's got it now? Private equity, and what are those guys? Maybe some of them know how to turn it on and volume knob. So again, over the years, I think they at least know what they're doing from a marketing standpoint, because that's the whole thing. Bose marketing, and it worked. And so, getting the sales up. Once you have sales up, is again, you can start to have a little bit more money freed up to do some other things, change some things as well. But
So as long as the core technology of the product doesn't
Sure.
change and they're just tinkering with the marketing, the product should still be good.
Yeah, and keeping autoforms and the big ones, and
Yeah, the autoformer is something that people don't realize that makes a lot of speakers more friendly to the amp and allows you to get the SPLs that you want from speaker designers like in the past, and Arnie Dudell, who didn't really care how difficult they made the amplifier. Steve McCormick was just telling me a story about that. Some speakers like the Ariel 10Ts, we were talking about that earlier, and then also Verity Audio. These are ones that Steve was reminding me of in the past. Very difficult to drive, but that's where also McIntosh made their name, is making them more friendly impedance to drive them with those autoformers. So yeah, there's a lot of reasons for people to be fanboys over the past, but my thought is that as soon as private equity started getting involved, that, the audiophile and history and legacy, whenever you change ownership, no matter what company it is, it doesn't mean it's a bad thing, but things do change. When the original designers are not there, and then you've got venture capital, the passion for the end product and the customer can change to the bad. And I'm not saying that necessarily happened, but the trends that I had been seeing, and speculation, is that this was a sale because things weren't all that great at McIntosh. I don't know that for a fact. That's just the writing on the tea leaves that have been shared. But if they weren't doing as well financially as they were in the past, I think Bose, assuming that may be the motivation, Bose probably saw this as a smart play for them in terms of car audio, because at least McIntosh and Sonus Faber have the car audio. And as much as, I think they're a $3 billion company, Bose. So a $25 million, I think I've heard speculated as McIntosh, even if it's 100 million, that's nothing compared to the billions. Yeah. So the sales of a car, getting those car contracts is much more worthwhile than selling at a dealer to audiophiles every day. And, there's so much competition in the audiophile market, and the McIntosh name is not as universally as the number one brand as it used to be, like in the 80s or 90s. So fighting that fight, I don't think is part of the Bose plan. I think my speculation is that they're going to use it for the car audio market, and that fits what you just did with your car. And I'll pop up some pictures putting car audio.
Jason. You're seeing more of that with cars. You have your upgraded premium package with different audiophile grade, things that some people are willing to pay for. And if you add into that the aesthetics of the, blue-green light, it is an interesting play. If that
was
an
easy play,
it would be very marketable for people that want to show off a system, because you wouldn't know any system just by looking at it from afar, but you see those lights, and if you see that in a system, it's McIntosh. So it'd be an interesting, play.
The other is that amplifier that's driving it is 33, 34 years old. And the guys that did the install on it bench tested it, and they said, this is one of the best tested amps we've had. They said it was, I think it was flat down at 10. And that's after not being used for what, 25 years or so, and getting it
Pretty
back up the
impressive,
spec
yeah.
and getting, and you know, it's a big piece now. I know you'll see in the pics that I sent to Jason of it mounted, but it's you can't ask for much
It's like a
more.
boom box sitting on top
Yeah,
of his Porsche
but
as he drives down the street.
but again, like I said, there's some pros and cons to anything, and over the years, and I've done everything under the sun. But I will say this on leave the Mac with this, is that is the last word in resolution? No. Is the last word in depth? Is it no? Is it the last word in anything? No. But it does everything pretty well.
Good, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and across the board. And the other is that it works, at least amplifier side of things, preamp and non-moving, I guess, transports and whatnot. It works.
And survived rain for 3 weeks.
And
That's
then on
impressive,
top
too.
of that, if I do
Yeah.
need something, it's right off to Binghamton, and it can be handled. You can get a human on the other end, and so that
As long as that doesn't
speaks
change
volumes.
with the Bose, you know, I mean, that would
Yeah, I
be
think that should be
customer
the
service side
same.
of it.
And there's a cottage industry, as you mentioned, with Audio Classics. There's a lot of people that have parts, know how to repair them, and they're bulletproof. That was really why I have one in my family room. I knew I was going to have little kids. You know, Doug's been to my house. I have like 30 family members that come over. Most of them have 5 kids each. You know, my house needs a shoe check because it's all my wife is Asian. So literally I have like 50 shoes in my foyer. They're all little kids in my house. I was like, I need an amp that somebody's not going to short. Now, the gauges, people like to turn the dial, but it's been bulletproof for now a decade for me. So, you know, I definitely see the value of McIntosh and why people have been fans for so long. I just think long term, I think it's actually better that it's in the hands of an audio company now and not VC.
I agree.
But my one thing is I don't anticipate you seeing new audiophile products because of the Bose merger per se. If they already have stuff in the works, yeah. I think the Bose, they're looking at revenue and how they can make this profitable, and they're looking at the contracts that Sonus Faber has with, I think, Maserati and then McIntosh, and putting these into cars. Because as a CPA, how I look at this deal, people finance cars. They are more apt to say yes to the upgraded finance package, because guess what? It's only an extra few bucks a month on the note. And that's where you're going to make more money in this industry. People that are trying to make money in the audiophile industry otherwise, with electronics especially, very tough. There's so much competition with Chinese now, and we'll see how tariffs equal that out. But it's very tough for a company like McIntosh to continue the way it was doing business and still generate growth and profits. So this was probably a necessary deal. We may not like it, and we may not like how it ends up in terms of what we're used to in our vintage and nostalgia, but it's probably the only way this company would have survived and have a future is with this kind of merger, and a company that could afford to buy them without really batting an eye at it. Because just churning with multiple VCs like they had been doing, I don't think that was doing them any favors. I mean, I know you talk about you can still send it in for repairs, but I had heard a lot of anecdotal stories about repairs taking so much longer than they used to be at McIntosh. And some of those things have been declining versus their reputation. So I think that this could be a good thing under new ownership. They could be dotting their I's, crossing their T's again from the audiophile aspect. And then we could be seeing them in cars. For what it's worth, I'm going on record. This will be on a video. We'll see if I'm right or not. But welcome to get any of you guys' other thoughts for either you, Tom, or you, Michael. Michael, you're a dealer, but you don't have a deal. You don't sell any McIntosh, or maybe you have in the past.
I never had sold McIntosh.
Okay.
I did.
Oh, you did?
I have anecdotal stories, but
Okay.
to your point about the cars, I believe I saw a Mac setup in the Jeep Grand Wagoneer.
Okay.
So the unit volume of that, I don't know what it is, but it's got to be huge. You talk about 50,000 units or something or more. for their highest end vehicle. And it's exactly as you said, Jason. Check the box. It's $100,000 car. What's another whatever 5,000 for Mac name in the dash, and it looks very classy in the dash setup. So Tony, I've seen it there, and I want to say somewhere else. So they already have some penetration, which is where all the groundwork is getting the OEM penetration. I worked for Intel for a number of years in the automotive industry, and I worked with the electronics suppliers to Delco and Ford. And it took us, the model cycle was at best was 3 years. And it might take 3 or 4 years to build the relationships and get them to even trust us to get those parts in there. So someone's already done a lot of homework, Sonus Faber and Mac both, to get those in there. But so the two bits of irony that I'll relate. So I'm the oldest guy here, and I worked in a hi-fi shop when I was in high school. And
You got muted for a second there.
yeah. So anyway, I went off to college, and I was the only guy that walked into the dorm with a C28, a 2105 MR78. And guess what? I had a pair of Bose 901s.
Oh, really? Okay.
What's old? If you live long enough, what's
Comes
old?
full circle, yeah.
Do you have an old picture of that? Just
I got a hunt. I doubt
yeah,
it.
that'd be cool to
It's
have.
a physical picture by that time. It's 50 years ago. And so that was kind of amusing, just in the irony of it. But the other one that's interesting to me is since I worked at a dealership back there, part of the heritage of McIntosh was the McIntosh Clinic. And I don't know how long that lived before it finally died, but it was the coolest thing for me as a propeller head engineer to be at that time. They would come in. So Mac would come in, they'd schedule a clinic at your dealership, and you could bring any piece of gear you wanted, anything, not Macintosh even, and have it tested on their audio precision. And they'd give you complete measurement. And if it was Mac, they would tune it up right there. And that was their heritage. We sold more stuff on that alone just because of the quality and the way they invested in their product. So to go from there to the VC world and where they are now is really quite hard to watch.
Yeah, I don't think they're ever going to get back to that days
No.
where they made their reputation. But the way the world has changed, there really isn't demand for that. And there are better companies now for that niche. Passionate young owners that are doing that, the Poporis of the world, the other type of young manufacturers that are going to take that ball and run with it in the industry on a small scale. I think what we're going to see, my other prediction is, if you think about it, Bose is known for headphones, but they're not known for their electronics. So I think what they're going to start doing is, enough people that are audiophiles, if they like the blue gauges, they've already bought a McIntosh, or they're going to buy a used one. They're not going to buy a new one.
They got them on the cups of the headphones.
They could be.
They can look in the mirror and see them.
But they don't have penetration among the young sect with the headphone amplifier. That's probably where I can see them coming out with headphone amplifier McIntosh to pair with the Bose headphones. That's my speculation. That's what I would do if I'm now in charge. So I'm just,
Yeah, they may actually have one. The when you look at their product line, as you were talking through some of those, Pepe as well, I think their audiophile, if you will, product line is really well filled out. I'm sure Bose knows that. There isn't room in the portfolio for really much new. They've done it all, including digital turntables. I mean, you name it. And probably somewhere there's some generic headphone amplifier, but the idea to
there is one. And they even have headphones. I've tried their headphones, but they were crap. But yeah.
There you go.
They weren't. I mean, I think I even have a video on my channel about them. I was probably nicer than saying crap, but in essence, compared to these.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, you're right. They probably already have that. They have speakers, but if you notice at the shows, it was always Macintosh with Sonus Faber speakers, not the Macintosh speakers. So they, I think Bose may reinvigorate. Let's put some attention into that headphone amplifier and market that with our headphones. Maybe, but we'll find out. I think it's the yesteryear of Macintosh is not coming back from this merger. I feel comfortable saying that, but I think overall it's a positive for that company for its long-term future, albeit it may not be what people want McIntosh to be. And some people are just going to have to get past the fact that Bose, who they always made fun of, now owns, their favorite manufacturer. But it's really much better than XYZ venture capital firm from Dallas owning it. That's what you have to market it to. You can't just McIntosh is not coming back alive to run the company. So we got to deal with reality.
I think like you said too, it's a little bit of the tip of the iceberg for consolidation, and we may never know what they really paid pennies on the dollar to get it. But Bose has pretty deep pockets, so what's a few $1 million to get a portfolio of brands that are well known and understood? But you look at Masimo, that's about to go nuclear at the moment as well.
I posted that again. Yeah, Masimo is looking to unload Denon, Marantz.
Yeah.
These are, again, legacy brands that are now under ownership from a different company. And Masimo was a head scratcher to begin with because they're medical equipment. But they came out with some cool products. In fact, I've got them right here. The Denon, these actually measure your ear follicles, how they respond to sound, and then they adjust per ear. So that was a really cool product. But marketing wise and then acceptability, again, it's still not as good as those headphones. But
does it take into account wax buildup?
Well, at the time it will. I mean, whatever is in your ear at the time, it takes that into account. But it's very interesting to just get that medical equipment side of measurements. But in any case, it was promising, even though a head scratcher at first. But I think financially, the Chinese and others with electronics are just eating these companies' lunch. So brands like Marantz and Denon may not have the market share and the cachet. Also, having those big box store relationships like Marantz and Denon don't have the same power because everybody's ordering online now. And, you can buy every brand. Having Best Buy carry your stuff isn't as powerful, still powerful, but not as powerful as it used to be having those exclusive contracts. So yeah, things are going to change in the industry. Consolidation. It wasn't the best of years from everybody's standpoint, other than the Bach. It was a great year, but that tells me that the market is going towards truly innovative products, things that really are not me too, regurgitate the same stuff in a fancier chassis or box. You have to be bringing something to the table now that is either super high value, that you use performance levels people couldn't reach before, or you're bringing something truly innovative, something unique. And, it ties back into what we saw about Popori. That was a great response to one show, one room, small room. It wasn't even one of the bigger rooms. And very rarely do people say one of the smallest rooms at the show has best sound of show. It's usually just naturally the big rooms. So that's what I like to focus on the channel. And I've got all you guys to kind of confirm some of the things. I'm glad you guys are sharing some of the same impressions I'm getting. And yeah, we're coming up on almost an hour, so I don't want to take too much of your time, but I'll open it up though for anybody else, anything else y'all want to share while we have some few more minutes.
I sent you some of the other picks too, and I guess with Popori, if you notice, and I've got a second system on the other wall, and it's a pair of Maggies. It's 1.7 eyes, and they do what they do. You know that going in, but the one thing is that they don't wake up until you feed them at least 200.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they don't wake up. And when they do, it starts to happen, but still you hit a brick wall at 60 and that's it. But the thing about the any kind of panel like that is that you got to have power, and a lot of power, good power to drive them. And so I think that's kind of
that was one of the good things about Popori. And I want to give a shout out. And I think I credit to you, Tom, because you brought Kevin with VAC, I think I heard, up to the room because we were using the VAC amps. Was it you that brought him down, or who? Somebody brought Kevin, told
Yeah,
Kevin
I didn't bring him to the room. No, I talked to him.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Later, but
that's probably, I got confused. But somebody had told Kevin that his amps sounded great with the Poporis, relatively modest, 80-watt tube amps, not the most powerful. It's not a flea watt, but it was like a very harmonious combination that most people would not think of, because like Pepe says, most of these panel speakers, especially Sound Labs and many Maggies, you need a ton of power. And Steve McCormick and I were just talking about the Ariel 10Ts, notorious. Even people with 200-watt amps weren't enough. He had to give people DNA 500s, and that's what really got him.
Eagle amplifiers, right?
Eagle,
Yeah, I had 10Ts with Roland monoblocks.
Okay.
Roland monsters.
Yeah. That's what he
Doug and
required.
I are both proud owners of the Nakamichi, what is it, the PA7s?
Yeah.
200 watt, those could drive pretty darn low.
Stasis. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
people overlook that aspect of whatever speaker you buy, you got to mate it to the right amp. Like I was saying, Arnie Nudell didn't care how difficult his speakers were to drive. He said, that's your problem. That's the manufacturer of the amp's problem to drive it. I'm creating the best speaker. You create the best amp to go with it. And that's something that people don't think about. They just say, oh, that's a cool chassis. Oh, I want a 300B sound. And then they hook it up with the wrong amp, the wrong speaker. And then it's disappointment. So synergy is always something that people usually learn the hard way, but I like to at least give people a head start. Don't overlook that. Leverage people's experience that have experience with that speaker or with that amp and find the right combination, because that can change the delta of performance right off the bat.
And I think maybe Michael can comment on this, but I know for a fact he's had at least 4 different amplifiers through those, and they're spectacular with all of them.
Yeah, you even tried a 5-watt atmosphere,
yeah,
right?
5-6 watt to 200-watt quads. I mean, so
and I think in Tampa, we're going to bring the Coda, which I know you both are fans of the Coda solid state. I want to hear those with the potpourris. And then we also will probably do tube amp. I think it might be Cat this time, which Pete the Greek owns and is a big fan of Cat, another long-time brand in the hobby. So it might be another chance to hear the potpourris with 2 different types of amp topologies, 2 different brands from what you heard at Capital Audio Fest, and see firsthand what Michael's been testing at his house. And of course, I've got a barbecue amp. I've got Class D amps. I've got budget amps. I've got Steve McCormick's monoblocks. So I'll be able to test the potpourri soon on a variety of amps as well. So
I think
the
thing about that too. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just this is Sandeep, but the Cat I have the JL5, which is their stereo amp, not the monoblocks, the JL7s, but the smaller of them. And I just like you, Tom, I've had the CLSs. I still have them. I pull them out once in a while. I haven't gotten rid of them, and I've never like the tube amps with these electrostatic panels. It's just that synergy is there. The mid-range just blooms totally.
I found it interesting too. That's great that someone has those. They're not that common, but they're beautiful amplifiers, beautifully made. Ken Stevens is very talented. The interesting thing about that, Jason, was that's just an example of somebody who was looking a little bit and heard at the show about the potpourris. That's what led him there. I mean, someone said, "Hey," his son, I think, right, Michael, and said, "Hey, you got to hear this."
Yeah.
So,
and that's what I like. Organic, word of mouth. Nobody, there was no prepaid agenda, and Gary Gill, the actual runner of the show, he could have whatever he wants basically for his speakers. Certainly Potpourri's not a big room vendor. They haven't paid for big rooms ever at his shows. And he's using these potpourris as his reference. So that's very telling. And so that's one of the main purposes of this Zoom, was to get people more impressions that are truly organic, a variety of impressions from different taste profiles, people that have had a lot of different speakers, what's resonating with them about the potpourri. And I'm very excited to have it in my room, hopefully within a week, Mike. I should have it here.
Yeah, you should have it next week.
Okay. And then maybe they'll go down to Doug's, and then the Sail Shape. Talk to them today about that on a private Zoom, and really excited about that. These guys, I will also tell you another thing, other than looks are very important, which y'all touched upon with speakers. This is in your house. It's a piece of furniture. If it doesn't look good, it's not going to matter. You're not going to buy it. But the other thing is the people behind the brand. And ISO Acoustics, if you've been watching my videos, I've had a few videos with their AB demo. And they reached out and said, yeah, we're happy to send you some isoacoustics where you can do further testing like I've done at the shows at my house. And I said, well, I'm actually getting a pair of the WR2s from Popori. Do you have some feet that can match their WR2s? It turns out the threading is not standard on the Poporis, but Isoacoustic volunteered to me in private emails, says, very receptive, very impressed with Popori. They're working with us to get the custom threading. We're going to create a custom adapter. So both on Isoacoustics and Popori's point, within a few days after that show and talking about this, they're creating a special adapter and sending it to me. And it's not just because I have a YouTube channel they're doing it. They do this for any customer. Popori would have done it for anybody, as well as Isoacoustic. They will customize an adapter, washer, and thread for the Popori. So I'm anxious to try that, but it's just giving me other feedback of how this company deals with other companies, vendors, dealers, distributors. It's the kind of company I like to support. There is a language barrier between Hungary and us, but we've done several Zoom now, and it's been great. I hope to visit them in the near future, but the main thing is we got 3 coming into the US pretty soon, plus the sale model. So lots more content coming soon, but I wanted to wrap it up for now, at least, giving people some comfort that are looking for a speaker. This might be one you want to put on the agenda, and you can contact either me. I'll put you in contact with Michael. He's the distributor and can put you in touch with somebody. Anything else, guys?
No, I just want to thank you for putting this meeting together, and Tom and Doug just spend their time talking about the room. Quite a bit of work to get there, and it was about a 7-month process, and I've been looking for a different electrostat as a sound lab dealer. It's a very difficult speaker to sell, so I was looking for something that had the aesthetics. I did bring in some other brands, you kind of mentioned some, so it took a while, and actually my researching, I found your video from 2 years ago. You actually walked out of the room and they showed you that sail-shaped card. But what impressed me when you were in the room, they offered up Make Me Stronger, and just from your expression, that's what drove me down that path to look into them. And it was been 7 months. But what I liked about them is they put their money where their mouth is. They sent the WR2s to me at their cost, because I was not going to put them in the calf show if they didn't check the boxes that I was looking for, as me and you were talking too about the other brands. And they checked all the boxes. And that's what impressed me, that they actually put their money where their mouth was. And I'm excited because I think it's a very special electrostat speaker, and they've been great to work with. As our Zoom call, they almost kind of listened to us on certain aspects. I mean, they had many models that just didn't make sense, and we told them that within weeks they cut the models out that didn't make sense and redid their website. So they're really willing to work with us to build their brand, which same.
They got a lot of passion and a lot of energy, and they're doing something very inventive. And yeah, I think that was really part of the key, because I was behind the scenes. I was working with Michael to see what the measurements was, because Michael has Bach. He's a Bach dealer. He was able to give me the measurements of the Popori in his room. Edgar logged in, got to see the measurements and see how it was performing, and gave it thumbs up. There was a lot of anecdotal before I even got a chance to see it for the 3rd time and hear this model. So yeah, there's been a lot of due diligence. This isn't just one time hearing it. There's been me at Seattle, me at Munich, now Capital Audio, then you with it in your home with the Bach, and then now I'm going to get it at my home. And again, anybody that's in the Houston area or coming to Houston's welcome to come demo it while I have it, until Doug takes it from me. But then I'll have hopefully the sale model soon. So yeah, coming up on an hour there.
But you will have someone relatively soon, Demetrio.
Oh yeah, I already have somebody coming out. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and then Pepe's got to drive. Pepe, you could be here in 15 minutes in your Porsche. I don't know why. You know.
It's yeah, probably could. I could make it to Houston in about 3 hours.
3 hours.
We made it from Atlanta in 5. We had a
Yeah,
fish.
you could actually beat the plane.
Atlanta to New Orleans, 5 hours.
We're going to do this one time. Doug, you take a plane to Houston the same weekend as Pepe. Pepe drive, and let's see who gets here first.
Yeah,
It'll be close.
Let's back
If he stops at Buc-ee's, I might have the advantage.
That's true. Buc-ee's might
That's
cause
right.
him to delay.
But, hey, by the way, Jason, my latest idea is, since I've got a lot of Mac amps laying around, is I want to build a bass amp. So like a cabinet bass for my guitar, bass guitar. So I want to build a cabinet that's actually got some almost subs in it, and the whole system will be driven with a pair of monoblocks, so I can get stereo.
So you can hear it in Houston when he's playing his bass guitar.
Yes. So like a Rickenbacker that has the two outputs for left and right, one pickup, and send it to each monoblock, and then have it come out of a true stereo bass cabinet. And again, it'll mount it into it, and it'll be a nice sizable cabinet. That's a separate. That's the next project, by the way. So
I'm not quick enough on my mute button. As soon as you said I have an idea and it comes from Pepe, I should have hit mute immediately.
Yeah, and until you see
now
it.
I have to edit this part out of the Zoom.
Until you see it.
So
Anyway.
all right. Well, yeah, we'll leave on that great note of what's coming soon from Pepe. And I'll pop up pictures of his home. Well, his car stereo is probably the more impressive thing, but also he's a big Sony ES collector like I've never seen before. I think maybe now you're bigger Sony than you are McIntosh guy. So yeah.
Well, it's just well-built stuff for what it was. It wasn't crazy expensive, and it's kind of neat when you look at the Sony and their digital heyday and all the cool things that you could do with the DAT players and the CD players and the higher end ones, and the build quality of it, and the copper chassis, and they were 45, 50 plus pound CD players. So there was something to it. People still use them as transport.
Jordache jeans were great back in the day, but you don't see people still wearing those.
Well, I do.
Yeah, we don't want to talk about fashion.
I go to fish shows with my Jordache.
No, well, nostalgia is a big part of the hobby, and
that's what it is. It's nostalgia, and white Adcom. I had the paid $50 extra to have the Adcom faces painted white back in the early '90s, and
that's part of it.
Just
relive your childhood, what got you in, and so yeah, that's a large part of the hobby now, and that's why I like to do these Zooms, because inevitably we start bringing up these brands from the past that Tom talked about, and I think that's part of the hobby that we could pass on to younger people that they don't know about, and at least know that this hobby is rich in nostalgia and history. It's not just, Chinese gear now that's sold at, great prices and value, not knocking it, but it's not just about what the industry is now. It's got a long history of evolving and lots of cool products and experiences and friendships. And so I like to share with you guys, on the channel and let everybody get to know you guys. Doug's a bigger star than me now. Everybody wants to see Doug. Actually, though, I did make it to Stereophile for the first time today.
Yeah.
I was in Stereophile for the first time. So in my younger years, I would have never dreamed that ever happened. Now I'm wondering why it took them so long. What's going on, Stereophile?
Yeah, coming down next week. We're playing.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. You got a band. So I'll give links to, well, do you have any YouTube videos of your band? Let's hope not.
Probably not.
No.
Okay.
Oh, no.
All right.
This guy.
Come to New Orleans, see Doug and his system, Pepe, and come to Houston, come see me. Michael's in Tampa, right? And then Tom, where are you?
Sanibel, Florida.
Okay. Feel free to come to, John Harlow's just coming in now. He's just joining the Zoom right as I just want to end. Okay, so we're going to wrap up, guys.
That was the best video ever.
It's a mountain time zone.
Harlow, what are you doing just now logging in? He's got his thing muted. Now he's off.
Better late than never. I'm just checking it out. I just saw your link.
John is one of the, although John, you have been surpassed, Edgar tells me. John was the most, he had bought the most box of anybody in terms of audios and box format combined. But are you talking, John? Okay, mute him. But John is a great guy. He's been on the channel, I think, before, but he's got the most Bachs, but he's been surpassed by somebody last night who got like his 8th Bach or something for family and room. So anyway, let me unmute. Okay, John, can you hear her?
Yeah, give me 6 more. I'm not finishing second to anybody.
I'll send you the invoice tonight.
Thanks, Fred. What are y'all talking about?
We're talking
about Jordache jeans.
We're talking about potpourri speakers.
DoorDash jeans and fish shows.
Yeah, Jordache jeans, fish. It got off the rails pretty bad as soon as Pepe joined.
Hey, where'd you get that singer? Where'd that singer arrive from that's in this thing with Pepe?
Which one?
Looks like you got your friend Doug, the singer.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes. Okay, so that I gotta. It was only a private video.
Come see him live next Friday.
That's a Talking Heads
Good enough band.
right there.
That's right.
Health
If you
and
join
Station.
okay, I'm going to pimp my membership section. I usually don't do this, but one of the best private videos I have of like 80 or 90 of them is Doug singing in Fredericksburg, karaoke, Talking Heads. Yeah,
Psycho Killer.
Yeah, Psycho Killer. And
Absolutely,
yeah,
he's got 2 hot chicks on the wings too, man.
he's popular. He was dressed as
Not mine.
yeah, he was dressed as what you call it, Scarface. So yeah, everybody wanted to get up on stage with him.
Yeah, it takes confidence to do that, and Dougie pulled it off well.
Yes.
Or bourbon. Bourbon works.
Yeah,
Bourbon's important.
you ought to get some Booker's 120 proof. That used to make me do all kinds of wild shit.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of which, we had such a good time in Fredericksburg. And when my Airbnb is built, I want to do a weekend. Hopefully, if it's ready for the March show, the weekend before, do Houston. Then we go to Fredericksburg during the week, stay at my Airbnb, and then head to Dallas for the show. So, you guys are all invited, and make that happen. I'll give you guys.
All your subscribers are invited. That'll be a tight ship.
Every subscriber. Luckily, this is an hour in. There's probably only 1 or 2 people that are still watching at this point. If you are still watching at this point, put in the comments that you watched to the end, and you'll get an invite to the Airbnb.
Did y'all talk about McIntosh tonight? Was that the subject?
Yes, we did. Yes. Did you want to say anything?
Have y'all saved the company?
Yes, we gave them ideas. I gave them all my ideas how to stay in business. And Pepe's going to buy everything they sell anyway.
The bass amp is going to be the one that really takes off, though. They're going to see my custom built
bass guitar
cabinet and head, and go, you know what? The guy's onto something.
Pepe, you must be from Louisiana.
I guarantee.
Yeah, I could tell from your accent.
Yeah,
no question about it.
I thought it was
didn't mean to crash your party.
No, I'm glad you did. And actually, I'm headed to Louisiana, so I got to start getting packed. Actually, I got a session with Edgar coming up next. So headphone module, going to be doing that with him. So more videos I got to produce for you guys. So
have a good Thanksgiving.
Yeah, and I might see you, Doug, when I come in town.
Everybody have a good Thanksgiving. Thanks for your time,
guys.
Just remember, everything goes better on a ccracker.
On a cracker. All right, guys. Good night.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Go Cox.